to get now to Mark Regev. He is an ambassador for Israel. He's also been a longtime spokesperson over the years in the past for the Prime Minister's office. Mr. Regev, thank you for joining us. Can you hear me?
My pleasure, Sarah.
All right. So here is one of the things that everyone is talking about, because the world's attention has turned to Gaza. They are also, of course, thinking about how this all began with Hamas and its terror attack, where it took out and killed 1,000+ people here in Israel, men, women, and children. But by all accounts, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, UNRWA, Doctors Without Borders, they're saying there's a humanitarian catastrophe that is already occurring and has been for the past 2 weeks, especially in Gaza, because of the Israeli blockade and the constant airstrikes there. 20 trucks of humanitarian aid have made it into the country, but Israel continued its airstrikes after that. Can Israel commit to creating a humanitarian corridor, for example, as this war goes on in Gaza?
Yes, that's what we hope to do. And what we're trying to create is a safer zone for people evacuating the north in the south. Now, I can't guarantee that no one's going to get hurt. There hasn't been a war in recent history, Sarah, where there haven't been innocent people caught up in the crossfire. But we are trying to do what we can to safeguard the civilian population of Gaza. Then we're not targeting them. We're targeting the Hamas terror machine. And so we've suggested people move to the south, out of areas where we expect to see heavy fighting, precisely because we don't want to see them caught up in the crossfire. In the south, that's where the focus of the humanitarian effort will be. We want to see that humanitarian effort expanded. We don't see the civilian population of Gaza as the targets of our attacks. And we're working with international partners to see if we can create there in the south a zone that will be safer than other parts of the Gaza Strip.
But Mark, indeed, there have been thousands of civilians, Palestinians killed in Gaza. The Ministry of Health there saying that there are now upwards of 4,000+ people who have died, many of them civilians. I want to ask you about the north, because Israel has told people they need to evacuate from the north for their own safety. But Doctors Without Borders, their doctors are saying they're not going to leave the hospitals there because they can't get their patients out with them. What do you say to those doctors and patients that are in hospitals in northern Gaza?
So obviously we will do our best to those people who can't evacuate. Of course, especially a humanitarian side like a Holocaust, like a hospital, we don't target hospitals. But please, everyone who can leave should leave. Get out of a combat zone. There will be heavy fighting between Israeli forces and the Hamas terrorists, and we don't want to see, I repeat again, we don't want to see innocent people caught up in the crossfire. That's not our goal. Our enemy is Hamas, that brutally killed our people. But the truth is, in many ways, Sarah, Hamas is also the enemy of the people of Gaza, because after 16 years of ruling the Gaza Strip, they've only brought suffering and pain and impoverishment to the people of Gaza. The people of Gaza themselves deserve better than this terrible terror regime. And when this is over, and we will have successfully dismantled Hamas's military machine and its political control of Gaza, I think there will be room for something better, which will obviously be better for the people of Israel that won't have to live next to a hostile, extreme terrorist enclave. But it'll also be better for the people of Gaza, who will get a government that maybe will be interested in their interests instead of this crazy extremist Hamas ideology, this sort of ISIS-type approach, which just wants more violence and terror. That doesn't help anyone, least of all the people of Gaza.
You talked about, trying to get civilians out of the way. I do want to tell you, I know you've heard what some Arab leaders have said around this region, and what Palestinians are certainly saying is that it appears that airstrikes that Israel is using are hitting so many civilians that the war is against Palestinians, not just Hamas. How do you respond to that criticism?
It's not true. In fact, Israel is trying to make maximum efforts, as I just said, to keep civilians out of the crossfire, while Hamas is doing exactly the opposite. And here is, I think, an irony that's worth pointing to. Many perceive in the Arab world Israel as the enemy of the Palestinians. Yet Israel is taking many steps to try to safeguard Palestinian lives. And at the same time, Hamas, which proclaims that it is the defender of the Palestinians, so to speak, at least ostensibly that's what propaganda says, it actually is taking steps deliberately to endanger Palestinian civilians, to bring them into harm's way, using them as a human shield for its war machine. Why else are they telling Palestinians not to leave areas of future fighting? Why are they actually physically preventing them from leaving future combat areas by putting up roadblocks? It's almost as if they want to fight to the very last Palestinian civilian. You know, in normal countries like Israel, the United States, Britain, we use our militaries to defend our people, to protect our civilians. Hamas inverts that. They use their civilians to protect their terrorist machine. It's ridiculous.
Let me ask you about the fighting, because you mentioned going into the north and that is going to be the scene, Gaza City, especially the scene of intense fighting. Is there still a ground offensive by Israel in the works?
We're keeping all options on the table, and I think there's an expectation that there will be such an offensive, because ultimately, to clean out the terrorist infrastructure will require a ground presence. Now, I have no illusions. It will be a challenging operation. Hamas has been in power, as I said, for 16 years. They've built bunkers. They've built an underground network of tunnels. They've built up their defenses. I'm sure the place is full of booby traps. And they're, of course, embedded in civilian neighborhoods, using the civilian population as a human shield. So the fighting will be difficult. I have no doubt, unfortunately, that not all the young Israeli soldiers who go into battle will come back home. I mean, it'll be costly, unfortunately. But let me say the following. I've been speaking to the young people of Israel. I've been speaking to soldiers, and I can tell you for a fact that though they know the dangers involved in this mission, they know how important that mission is. We cannot continue to live next to this Hamas terror enclave. We saw what they're capable of when they attacked us 2 weeks ago on Saturday. We saw the sort of brutality that they can inflict upon our people, and we say no more. Hamas's rule in Gaza will end. Their military machine will be dismantled. Israelis deserve a better reality. We should not be prisoners to this neighbor who's committed to our destruction and who's willing to use the most brutal and horrific terrorism against innocent civilians. But as I said a moment ago, getting rid of Hamas is not just good for Israel. It's good for the Gazan people too.
It is true that Hamas does not recognize nor want to see the state of Israel exist. But I do wonder, when you talk about the next government, does Israel plan to stay in Gaza? They have done this once before, and it did not work out so well. What is the end game of this war?
We are looking at end games. We're trying to think 1 or 2 steps ahead, Sarah. The most important thing is to get rid of Hamas. All the other options are superior to having Hamas remain in power. What will be the future status of the Gaza Strip after we get rid of Hamas? Different options have been on the table. We're looking at different things. We're actually talking to there have been preliminary discussions with different international interlocutors. But the most important thing is we get rid of Hamas. Just as the Americans led an international coalition to get rid of the territorial control that ISIS had in parts of Iraq and Syria, we will get rid of Hamas's territorial control in Gaza. And just as what came after ISIS might not have been perfect, but it was superior to ISIS, what will come after Hamas will be far superior to Hamas.
I just lastly want to ask you why Israel bombed a Greek Orthodox church in Gaza. That happened a couple of days ago, and Israel took responsibility for it.
So I'm sorry, but I don't know the details of that operation, but I can say the following. Hamas has a documented history of using civilian and even holy sites for its war machine. They've put missiles in mosques, and they've put missiles in schools. They've unfortunately have a historic record of behavior whereby they abuse places which are supposed to be places of learning or places of worship for their military machine, and if they do so, they cannot expect immunity.
Ambassador Mark Regev, thank you so much for joining us here on CNN.
Thanks for having me, Sarah. Much appreciated.